the UAE and Saudi Arabia are logically pressuring Egypt to adhere and to implement the structural adjustment reforms required by the IMF, precisely because that will open up more opportunities for them to purchase, for example, some of the industrial sectors and the companies that are currently under the ownership of the army. This is what, going all the way back to 2012, 2013, one of the objectives always was to take from the army, to force the army to privatize all of the economic stake that they have in Egypt, so that could be bought by foreign companies, foreign investors, Western foreign investors. But as I say, the UAE and Saudi Arabia are doing the buying now, or they are anyway competing in the buying. And so they want more of that to happen in Egypt, which will give them more sovereignty, the UAE and Saudi Arabia, more sovereignty over Egypt, which, as I said, I prefer that to you being bought by the West. I think it's better for you, because at least you have countries in the region, Muslim countries in the region, who have a stake in regional stability and prosperity, whereas the West just has a stake in your slavery.
This is the key point here in having, like, because they also, in this question, there's also another question embedded in it, that this notion of complete independence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, how can we be like completely sovereign? You know, like economic sovereignty is a goal, but it comes through a process.
Well, and see, and I mean, this actually becomes a very long discussion. We don't have time for it now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. No, but it becomes a long discussion because then you get into the issue of your delusional ideas about the Khilafah, which your delusional ideas about the Khilafah make you reject and be opposed to what's happening now, even though that's the actual basis upon which the Khilafah was, existed. In terms of, like, say, when we talk about Western economic imperialism, Western economic colonialism, colonization of Egypt through the IMF, okay, you're opposed to that. But you could argue, and the kuffar do argue, that the expansion of Islam was colonialist, that the expansion of Islam was that Islam was a colonizing force in Africa and in Asia and so on. We don't think of it that way, because of course that's not what it was. It wasn't the Muslims going there to steal your resources. But neither is this. If Egypt is coming under the sway of the UAE and Saudi Arabia, that's creating an Islamic bloc with centralized leadership, to some degree centralized leadership, while also being decentralized, because you still have your government. If Bilad al-Sham all falls under Saudi Arabia and UAE, and then there's connection with Turkey, you can have an Islamic bloc all the way from Turkey all the way to Morocco. If you have the geographic territory of the Ottoman Empire can be revived as an Islamic bloc under one sort of economic one economic bloc, one sort of economic strategy, sort of more or less a central but consultative planning, strategic planning for the region, policy, governance, everything. This is as close as you're going to get to something like a Khilafah. And it's not that far away from Khilafah. Yeah. But you're mad about it. You don't want to think about it because, number one, you have just a bias against Saudi Arabia. You have a bias against the UAE or whatever. And because you have in your head this whole thing of nationalism and our independence and, Egypt should be sovereign and what have you.
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe your sovereignty is going to be based on solidarity with other Muslim countries. Yeah. That's the basis of your sovereignty. Is by sovereignty meaning sovereign from the West. Yeah. That Muslims and the Muslim world and Muslim interests have control over your economy, over your planning, over your country, over your society, you're part of a whole.